Hey everyone, Felix from Nintendo Life here, and today we're here to review for you EA Sports FC 26 for the Nintendo Switch 2. This review was written by the stupendous Chris Scullion and has been adapted into this video by me. EA's football series has had a turbulent time on modern Nintendo consoles, as any long-time Nintendo Life reader or watcher will doubtless already know. When the Switch got its first entry in the form of FIFA 18, we pointed out that it was essentially a port of the Legacy Edition of Xbox 360 and PS3 at the time, which is why it was missing all of the modes from the current-gen versions. Still though, EA had ditched Nintendo consoles since FIFA 13 on the Wii U, so many of us were at least happy to see it on Switch in the first place, and hoped EA would build on it in the years to follow. Infuriatingly, EA would instead proceed to release basically the exact same game on Switch, new kits and rosters aside for FIFA 19, 20, 21, 22 and 23, meaning no fewer than 6 near-identical annual games, all based on that Xbox 360 Legacy Edition of FIFA 17. It was already out of date in FIFA 18, so by the time it reached 23, with the Switch now on its 5th Legacy Edition of a Legacy Edition, it had gone beyond a joke, hence our somewhat contentious 2 out of 10 review. Indeed, work your way through all those reviews, all written by Chris Scullion as some sort of annual Nintendo Life punishment ritual, and you'll see the spiral of a man initially happy that EA Football had returned to a Nintendo system, but eventually plunging into despair and anger when it became clear it was just churning out the bare minimum each year. Remarkably, this changed when the FIFA series changed its name to EA Sports FC. With the new title came a new beginning, and for the first time since the GameCube era, EA Sports FC 24 and 25 the following year finally gave Nintendo players full feature parity with their Xbox and PlayStation counterparts. It had come too late in the console's life to undo some damage. Ultimate Team was a ghost town after years of neglect, but it was finally proper FIFA, EA FC. Now, it's time for the series to make the jump to Switch 2, bringing with it the ultimate question. Has EA opted to do the same as it did on the Wii U and Switch and give early adopters a bare-bones experience again? Or has it finally learned the lessons of the past and delivered a fully featured football game at the first time of asking? Mercifully, it's the latter. EA Sports FC on Switch 2 has every mode you'll find in the PS5 and the Xbox Series XS versions of the game. That means every new feature, from the 2 new gameplay presets, authentic for more realistic football and competitive for faster pacing and smarter keepers, to the improved Manager Career mode with its live challenges and unlockable icon players. The latter is a brilliant new addition, because until now, Manager Career has usually involved picking your favorite team and just putting them through league after league, getting stagnant after a while. The new live option gives you a bunch of shorter scenarios to choose from, such as starting with a 12-point deduction and having to escape relegation while making 20 million in transfers before a set date, which gives you an excuse to keep coming back and trying out new situations. It also means the popular Ultimate Team mode gets all the new features this year too, including the return of tournaments and the new Gauntlet mode, where you play through a series of matches but aren't allowed to use the same player twice, meaning squad depth comes into play. It's on the pitch though where the most decisive decision can be found, so let's get it out of the way. When EA moved from FIFA to EA Sports FC and finally updated the game on Switch, it also shifted over from an ancient Xbox 360 engine to the Frostbite engine. The result of this was the Switch version dropping from 60 frames per second to 30 to accommodate the new engine's update in visual quality. Our review of EA Sports FC 25 on Switch hoped that by making the jump to Switch 2, this would be fixed, bringing the game up to full 60 frames per second on Nintendo's new console. But alas, that hasn't happened yet, meaning this new Switch 2 offering still only runs at 30 FPS. We know this will be a deal breaker for some, and if you're one such player, then we suppose this is where your review ends. For those still with us though, it's worth pointing out that the drop from 60 to 30 for the Switch 2 version may obviously affect the visuals, but doesn't really affect the gameplay. EAFC has never really relied on Twitch controls because momentum is taken into account, meaning every pass, shot and turn has always taken place after the button is pressed anyway. We've put hundreds of hours into the Xbox version of the series every year. The game doesn't appear any less responsive on Switch 2 than on Microsoft's consoles. Of course, it doesn't look as smooth because it's running at half the frame rate, but we can still play it just as well on Switch 2. Indeed, it's those who regularly play the series on PS5 or Xbox Series X and are likely to jump in between those versions and the Switch 2 version will notice the frame rate more. If you've been playing at 60 and you're suddenly forced to drop to 30, the difference will be jarring. It really does only take a couple of matches to get used to, however, and the general slower pace of a football game as opposed to, say, a racing game means the frame rate may be disappointing, but it's certainly not disastrous. One of the main reasons for the frame rate drop is to keep the game stable while maintaining visual quality, which it definitely does. Put it side by side with other consoles and you'll obviously see they're not like for like, though Switch 2 really does a good job of maintaining visual detail. Player faces are great, the kits are nice and sharp when you zoom in on them, and all the pre-match animations, including fans arriving outside the stadium and the manager giving the team talk in the dressing room, are here too. More concerning is the menu system, which is really starting to creak and strain. After years of having more and more features dumped on it, these menus are already janky on more powerful consoles, but on Switch 2 the Ultimate Team UI is so clunky that it froze up a few times during our initial team setup, and we had to reboot the game. We're hopeful that this will be addressed in a future patch, but until then, be warned that while responsiveness isn't an issue off the pitch, it's certainly lacking of it. Other limitations aren't directly EA's fault this year, though they may still be the result of the previous years of neglect Switch owners got when the series was known as FIFA. The Ultimate Team, while wonderfully fully featured on Switch 2, simply doesn't have the community it does on PlayStation and Xbox. This is most obviously felt when trying to find a match online on Switch 2. Because the gameplay engine isn't identical on Nintendo's console, crossplay understandably isn't possible. But whereas it's easy to find a match within a split second on other consoles, we had to wait a minute or so to find another Switch 2 player. This will hopefully get better when the standard edition launches, but it'll still be a vastly smaller player pool than the Xbox, PlayStation, and PC crossplay community. One thing that theoretically could be possible but isn't yet is a fully shared transfer market on Ultimate Team. PlayStation and Xbox users have a shared transfer market, which means there are often tens of millions of players and cosmetic items listed for transfer. Once again this year, Nintendo players are left with their own separate transfer market, which at the time of writing only has 13,550 items for sale, meaning far less choice, and due to the lack of multiple listings meaning less need for competitive pricing, the need to spend more coins on specific players. It would be even more of a dream to allow for cross-save, meaning you could play your Ultimate Team or Manager career on PlayStation or Xbox at home to take advantage of the better visuals, then load it up on your Switch 2 and continue it on the go. Instead, each version of the game is its own standalone thing, meaning you have to start from scratch and have a completely different campaign running on each console. Take all of this into account and the bottom line is still that EA Sports FC 26 is the new best ever Nintendo football game. The wish list for improvements for next year is clear. If EA can offer some sort of performance mode which allows for 60 FPS gameplay and find a way to tap Switch 2 users into the same shared Ultimate Team transfer window market used on other consoles, you'd be looking at a near flawless Nintendo version of the game. As it currently stands, it's still a fantastic football game with hundreds of hours of gameplay to be found across its numerous modes, unmatched authentically, and engaging control on the pitch. Once you're used to the frame rate, it's an absolute joy to play in handheld, and while the game engine isn't 100% identical to other formats, it's far and away the closest thing we've ever had to getting a proper EAFC on the move. Ultimately, there isn't much competition on Switch 2 yet anyway. Konami's eFootball continues to be conceptuous by its absence, so EA Sports FC was always going to be the default choice regarding of its quality. It's a relief then that EA didn't take advantage of this fact by phoning in a half-hearted port like it did so many times on Switch, and has instead started, as it hopefully means to go on this time, with a fully featured version from the get-go that gives Nintendo owners the respect they deserve. We here at Nintendo Live give EA Sports FC 26 for the Nintendo Switch 2 an 8 out of 10. And now with the review done, it's time for Felix's personal thoughts. So I've actually played this game more than I thought I would. Sure, I've played a lot of FIFA or EA Sports FC in the past, but I wasn't really impressed initially when playing this on Switch 2. This was apparent after I'd tried it out at Gamescom. I just thought it looked really bad, and the drop to 30 FPS was really jarring as a person who had played EA Sports FC 25 quite a lot on the Xbox. But as Mitch says, after a few matches, it actually starts to feel pretty good. I've played quite a lot of Ultimate Team and actually had a blast, and being able to take it on the go, well, it's a winner. Would it be nice to have 60 FPS? Absolutely. I don't think I was as impressed on this game as Chris was, but I can also understand after, just the horrid legacy editions that were released once and once again, it is really nice that off the bat they've actually put some effort into the Nintendo version of the game. If you enjoyed this review, don't forget to check out our website nintendolove.com, where you can find reviews like these but in written form. Stay safe and we'll see you in the next one. Felix from Nintendo Life, out.